Here we go.
Go. Those on the call, just give it a couple of minutes and then we'll probably kick off in about a minute's time. All right, I think we might kick off. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining. For those that don't know me, my name is Shane Thorpe. I lead the Data and AI practice for NTT Data, as well as your host for today's webinar. Today, we're going to be exploring Landon Rogers' journey, where they transformed their data analytics capability, moving away from data silos through to a unified AI-ready platform using Microsoft Fabric. Just a bit of housekeeping. We've got a bit of questions. Please post them in the Q&A chat. We'll have someone on our end just monitoring that, but we'll leave enough time at the end so we can address that. Let me introduce the panel. I'm joined by Stephen So, Head of AI Strategy, and Tristan Steele, Program Manager, Insight and Innovation at Landon Rogers. We're also joined by Benny Austin, who's the Microsoft Data and AI Solution Architect. So today, in this webinar, we're not going to be presenting anything. It's really a roundtable discussion. Stephen and Tristan are going to share their perspective around their journey from an organizational view. And then obviously, we've got Benny from more of a Microsoft product, what he's seeing in the market. So I think a good place to start is probably Landon Rogers, where it all began. So Stephen and I we caught up and connected about 4 or 5 years ago. Now I think Stephen, which is a while, it's been a bit of a journey, but really talking around some of the challenges that Stephen and Landon Rogers were going through, and Stephen will go through that in a minute, but really talking through some of the where it was data challenges, and I think the aim was really at that stage was around insights and self-service analytics, and really the conversation was shifting around that the data silos and data fragmentation was becoming a challenge, and this is where Stephen and Landon Rogers faced these challenges head on. So look, kick off the first question of today, Stephen. Can you give us a quick overview of Landon Rogers, your role, and some of the business and technical challenges that you were facing before you decided to consolidate?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Shane. Delighted to be part of this webinar. If you guys have questions, because I'm sure you will be either considering something similar to us or somewhat along down that journey, please feel free to pop them into the chat, because I'm sure Tristan and I will be more than happy to just give you our perspective of our journey. So Landon Rogers, a little bit about us. It's a large independent law firm, work mainly across the Eastern Seaboard, across 4 offices, been operating nearly over 100 years. For us, paramount data security, compliance is kind of paramount in terms of the trust for our industry. So we approach it very cautiously, and we're not going experimental in a sense. Shane has alluded to, this will be faced across not just any law firm, but most organizations I've been with. They have data silos, or we especially have data silos across every enterprise system. And yet, in the past, before we engaged NTT, we can string them all together and we can bring collective insight together. However, it was largely a very manual task, and I guess required quite a bit of reporting effort and your favorite Excel sheet to put to string it all together. Now that when we engaged NTT 4 or 5 years ago, we start our initial path down Azure Data Factory, as many of you guys probably have started with before even considering Fabric, or before Fabric existed back then. We had a lot of reporting tools out of the box in terms of each of our enterprise systems, but bringing it all together was another challenge. Therefore, I guess our data infrastructure was a bit porous, right? You couldn't get what you wanted. Everything that's outside of what we standardly delivered was a bespoke report or bespoke data pull, and you know how quickly that gets out of date. Our security posture was a bit poor, because then you're really juggling manual files that you don't really have control of, and like the timing of it expires quickly, right? So we were missing that data agility in a sense. When we looked at the opportunity with Azure Data Factory, and then now with Fabric, what it's going to provide us is a unified data platform that has native integrations with a lot of the Microsoft suite and the databases that sit underneath the enterprise systems. Selfishly for me, it really prepares us for the advent of AI. So although there's quite a bit of buzz, the legal industry takes it quite cautiously. And the data foundation is probably the most interesting differentiator that you'll have when using AI outside of the publicly available large language model services. So we're looking at that as a key differentiator for us as we prepare for the new AI age. And of course, it has to be grounded in the right governance and compliance to make sure that we're doing it in a safe, smart way and protecting the interests of our clients as well. So we see this as a strategic enabler more than just a technological upgrade for us. Shane, you might have a bit of background coming off from you, but I will close my intro there.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, thanks, Stephen. And I think good, I mean, mentioning around the AI, because it is obviously very topical at the moment. So I think we'll get to that further down the discussion side of things. But obviously good kind of rounding out the challenges that you were seeing. What those challenges, were they affecting any of your business decision making? I guess from your kind of business stakeholders around there. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, like, do you know when you really have a poor internet connection and you have a really laggy game? That was us, right? To pull that insight together, to bring it all together, to get someone, request someone to do it. That was the lack of real-time insight was really the main drag. I'm not singling out our team as doing a poor job, but if we were to, especially when it came to our financial information, there was a massive crunch at the end of each month to compile everything together. They were blocked out for 3 or 4 days to pull all month-end reporting. Never mind quarterly and yearly reporting together. But that's just an example of like something that we've been able to like turn into repeatable, instant, real-time decision making. So that one example is like hugely beneficial for us.
And you're right. I think trust is a big also issue that we're seeing at the moment, where if your stakeholders do not trust the data, then they don't use it, and then they go back to running things under their desk with Excel and so forth, and then it kind of defeats the purpose around sort of a unified view.
And even the reconciling process when something changes and you have to go back and rerun it again, like it was such a pain. So yes.
The other problem that we faced as well is there was just no single source of truth. People were pulling off their own insights, doing their own transformation. All of a sudden, you get different departments showing different numbers, and then people start losing trust in the data itself. So for us, that was a really big moment to make sure that we could pull together a single source of truth that could be trusted for the firm.
Yeah, great. Probably a good segue through to Benny. Probably a good, for us, obviously, we're speaking about Landon Rogers' specific journey, but what are you seeing, I guess, from other organizations in these challenges that I've mentioned?
Yeah, thanks, Shane, and hello, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I might just extend on what Stephen spoke and the last point that Tristan mentioned. The common challenge that we see in the field in terms of barriers to implementing data platforms is today we have the market is flooded with so many tools, right? We have so many different databases. We have different ETL tools. We do have different reporting tools. On top of that, if you add AI into the mix, there are different ML platforms. There are different data governance tools. There are different ways you can deploy things. So all of this what creates, from a technical perspective, an integration challenge for your CIO. So what Fabric has done from this perspective is kind of making the product available as a SaaS through a familiar the Power BI interface, kind of removes that complexity, because now you have to deal with just one platform that has tools for both your batch uploads, for your real-time workloads, for your ML workloads, and it is the platform that has AI built into it. So you don't need to go for an external integration into the platform. So that integration of all the tooling into a single platform and its integration with rest of the Microsoft ecosystem, like private endpoints, customer managed keys, all the Entra integrations, kind of makes it a great fit, not just for enterprises, but also opens up the opportunities for small and medium companies to utilize the power of data in their decision making. The second point, just to expand on what Tristan mentioned, so today we see organizations have silos of data across their organizations. So that's a challenge, not just from an operational perspective, but also from a security perspective. It increases your surface area of attack. But more importantly, I think what it does is it reduces the ability of or the trust in your data for decision making, because there are several sources of data or several data sources kind of producing similar data sets, and we don't know, most often you don't know where they originate from, how they are produced, or how often they are refreshed. So that creates a challenge, both from an operational perspective, from a usability perspective as well. And with Fabric, because now it's a SaaS platform, and with the introduction of one lake as a storage across your tenant, it kind of removes that challenge totally from that equation. So basically, you could have different organizations now sharing information. They could create their own data sets, but they could now start sharing. So you don't need to have multiple copies of the same data, or that it promotes more collaboration within the organizations as well. And the other important part that I might have to touch here is with platforms like Fabric, which is SaaS oriented, it is also future proof, because the upgrades are coming to the platform without you having to do anything, right? You don't have to worry about how much to provision, or what is the underlying hardware going to look like, what's the networking or the security is going to look like, how the backup and disaster recovery will look like. That's kind of taken by the platform. So from a business perspective, it lowers your cost of ownership, and also from a technical perspective, it removes all the tech debt associated with the platform, and you have the latest capabilities available in your platform. I think those are the three key things that we are seeing in the industry at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Benny. Let's move over to Tristan around more the implementations, and obviously Benny mentioning key themes there: simplification, unification, and obviously collaboration and integration. Tristan, how do you and Stephen work together to drive the data strategy, and what's your role in overseeing the technical implementation at Landon Rogers?
Thanks, Shane. Yeah, I guess the easiest way to explain it would be that Stephen would set the vision for AI and data. So that's more about the where, the why, and the where. And for me, I sort of translate into an executable roadmap. So that's more about the how and the when. So my role in particular, so I lead and oversee the implementation of our data strategy. We have a small team of engineers and BI analysts that look at both the ongoing governance around our data infrastructure, but then also managing the BAU portfolio of reports as well.
He's kind of undersold that role a bit, but it does more.
Thanks, Tristan.
More than that.
So just obviously going back to when we were having the initial conversations, at that time, obviously Fabric wasn't around, and obviously we were looking at modernizing your estate. Obviously we had those components from Azure Data Factory, and Azure SQL was what was chosen, just in terms of around the requirements. What kind of drove the transition from Azure SQL through to Fabric, and was there any limitations with the Azure SQL? And I know it's a database that's ready, geared up for kind of applications and ready, not analytics. But yeah, what drove it?
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right, Shane. The Azure Data Factory was a fit for purpose tool for us. And by and large, the main reason that we even considered Microsoft Fabric was due to a change in licensing subscription. So we were at a point where we were actually looking at Azure Data Factory, and we had a project in our pipeline called ADF 2.0, and basically we'd hit such a point after the inception of ADF where we really wanted to actually get down and start to re-engineer things. We brought through a lot more data sets, and we just found that the performance, we could do a lot more with it, but it was starting to trip over each other a little bit with fact and dimensions running at different times and whatnot. So we were at a point where we were going to start to pull that apart, really have a look at the performance and look at reducing our data latency so that we could actually get quicker incremental refreshes on our data. So at that point in time, we come to learn that Microsoft Power BI licensing, which we use as our data visualization tool, had actually changed its model where it was actually going to be brought through as part of our Fabric, pulled through as part of Microsoft Fabric. So it's at that point where we really just needed to take a quick look at what Microsoft Fabric could have to offer, because we were going to be paying for it anyways. So we were having a look and comparing both of those two tools, but we were also looking at our technical roadmap and our strategy. Where did we want to be in the next 5 years? What are the current problems that we had? What was our current state? And if we did migrate across to Microsoft Fabric, what are some of the benefits and limitations that would actually be in front of us? By and large, the decision ended up coming out that Microsoft Fabric was definitely going to be the path forward for us, not only from a financial perspective, so we could look at reducing some of the OPEX expenses, but from a scalability perspective as well, and even fitting into, as Stephen mentioned earlier, his vision around our AI strategy. So really, I guess we were in a position where we needed to start to phase what that implementation would look like. And the first phase, when we engaged NTT again, was about, let's do a lift and shift. We just need to migrate everything that we have today across into Microsoft Fabric, and then start to plan out some future iterations from there. So starting to look at that initial lift and shift model was actually made quite easy in Microsoft Fabric, but there was one key consideration. So in Microsoft Fabric, it is it's a tool that is maturing. It's only been around for 2 years, right? And you're comparing that against other tools in the market that have been around for years and years and years. So it's not as mature. The one thing that I will say is we struggled to keep in front of the wave of changes that were happening with Microsoft. We sort of needed to take our current mindset of how we had our warehouse, throw it in the bin, and then just really immerse ourselves in all of the upcoming features, what Microsoft Fabric had to offer, and make some key decisions on how we would actually do this lift and shift. Now, us as a business, we didn't have a time crunch where we needed to migrate away from Azure Data Factory. So we made the decision to migrate away from Azure Data Factory using a preview feature, SQL database. A SQL database has only just become a global administered feature, but at that point in time, it was a preview feature, which means that we did take a risk if we were to go live in production with that feature, that anything could happen. It could change, it could roll back, whatever. But we knew that if we went down another path of administering what was to be more of a Fabric native model at that point in time, that it wasn't fit for purpose for us, and eventually we'd find that we probably would need to re-engineer the way that we did things. So we did make that choice of using a preview feature, and we also found that at various points, like throughout our whole cycle, there were preview features that we needed to use to look at getting the solution to where it is today. And with all of those preview features that we are using at each level, we need to keep in mind that if something were to happen, what is going to be our fall safe or rollback method? But for us, it's more about why are we using it this way? We're setting ourselves up for future so that we either don't need to re-engineer what we're doing and can start using some of the benefits that Fabric has to offer in this solution straight away.
And I think you're right. I mean, the key, when we were having those conversations, looking at, yes, that there are technical benefits that Fabric bring from the kind of immediate side of things, but also the scalability into the other innovative ideas in AI, which was very much on your and Stephen's radar. But also just to comment, and in terms of that not simplification, but ease of migration from going from the Microsoft ecosystem to another Microsoft ecosystem, I got the feeling talking to you that migration just made it a lot easier going from one to the other.
Oh, I mean, as far as lift and shift can be used in data warehousing, that was essentially what we were doing. We were doing a lift and shift. So, you know, the other path of completely re-engineering things, it would have been far more disruptive. It would have taken a lot more time. But the time constraint that we did find, like, yes, it was a lift and shift. The time constraint that we did find is because we were using preview features, there's not a lot of information out there on these preview features because they're so new. So it was a lot about research and navigation, which is great now because the team that work under us have a really strong foundation of how those features actually work and the ins and outs of it.
Yeah, great. And maybe just, I mean, we're talking about features. Do you want to just give a bit of the lessons learned? I know you've mentioned a few just now, but just some of the lessons learned during the migration, and maybe talk through some of the preview features or new features that you used in Fabric.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, the lessons learned, I sort of mentioned this a little bit earlier, was we really did need to throw our whole perception on how things were done and sort of set it aside, because Microsoft Fabric evolves and changes so much. And even the concept of Microsoft Fabric, like the way that OneLake is so different compared to other lakehouse solutions. I almost think of OneLake as like OneDrive, but for data, right? Like the ability to move data from some workspace to other workspaces by doing shortcuts, etc. It was very different way of structuring our data with different levels of security. But I mean, lessons learned for us were definitely around keeping on top of best-in-class practices with how Fabric should be used, because there are a lot of features in there that are typically different to other warehousing type of solutions. The other thing for us as well was how we were going to address our data latency, which was one of the big reasons why we looked into this, was how can we get our deltas down? And one of the biggest problems that we found was when we were working with Azure Data Factory, we were running off of two separate refresh models. Essentially, you've got your data warehousing refresh, which is running through, churning through the data, updating the data, but then you need to populate that data into the end report for users. Those refreshes don't natively come out of the box and run asynchronously together unless you can do some pretty out of the box coding and whatnot in there across different solutions. But for us, what we did was we leveraged the Fabric data pipeline to actually go through, refresh our warehousing model. But in that same pipeline, we're kicking off an asynchronous process that runs through and refreshes the semantic models. And really proud of this, but we're able to get our Delta refreshes down to 15 minutes, which is amazing in my opinion. That's near real time. I don't think we'll look at trying to, we could probably push it a little bit further, but I don't know if we could push it too much because we're crunching a lot of data there to produce that. But basically, now what we're getting is we're confidently going out to the firm and saying, your insight is near real time. It's 15 minutes. Whereas beforehand, what we'd find is if we had a failure in the data warehouse on some facts, but not some dimensions, the way that we had it set up, it might have allowed for the dimensions to be uploaded, the facts to be uploaded, but the dimensions might not have been uploaded. And then Power BI comes and refreshes it all. Because they were running on two different models, you couldn't control when each of the models were going to refresh. Now we've got a lot of failure safety precautions in there to let us know, hey, this failed, therefore don't refresh Power BI at this point in time, or even alert systems that go out to my team. And then I guess another one of those lessons learned is I'm now actually able to bridge the gap a little bit more between data engineer and BI analysts. They're sitting in the same tool. Whilst there's different skill sets, you can start to create more awareness and monitoring across both roles to see when something is actually happening wrong, or get a bit more, expand on maybe that BI analyst into getting them to understand how data pipelines work and start playing around with how they can add more models into that Delta refresh. So that we can get more semantic data updating every 15 minutes, etc. So it's been really positive impact for us.
And it's a good point around the latency. I mean, we're also seeing in other organizations when you're building these insights that the end of month or quarter, it's these insights we're wanting right now. So I see the demand of stakeholders wanting insights a lot quicker than what traditionally we're used to in the reporting space. So I think that's a key topic. So thank you, Benny. Probably from a Microsoft perspective, what are some of the developments that are coming out with Fabric and in terms of what what Tristan's mentioned, and I guess how's it evolving on your end?
Yeah, look, Fabric, the features are being released almost every week. So the product roadmap is developing in terms of adding features and also improving the existing capabilities. So Tristan touched upon the Power BI side of things, so where we kind of rework the Power BI engine to make it direct link, so you don't removes the need for refreshing. Likewise, today, if you look at the other data engines, the native Spark engine, for instance, has been completely rewritten so that it's kind of 2 or 3 times faster than what it used to be. The Fabric data warehouse engine has been optimized to make it run faster. Likewise, the data flow experience for the low code experience, especially if you're a data analyst, want to do some proof of concept. Now, all those compute engines behind the scenes have been optimized. What that means is it not just runs faster, but it consumes less capacity units, or your cost is decreasing. So on the feature side, where the product is going, so there is a lot of emphasis on data governance, because going forward, there will be a lot of AI integrations. So once you get to that stage, you need to have proper governance across your data. So today we have the ability to certify your data sets. That's a key process. So especially when you have different data sets, you might have test and prod and non-prod versions. So you might want to certify, have a different level of access for those things. And some of the concepts that are available in M365, like the sensitivity labeling is available, which you could use to tag your data sets. So they will be inherited across the life cycle of the data asset. So you could then, if your organization is using existing DLP policies, for instance, that can kick in on the structured databases as well. An important shift that's also happening is there is a lot of emphasis moving towards real-time intelligence, or the monitoring your data platform in real time, not just monitoring, but also taking actions when certain events happen. So in many cases, this could be lead to kind of reduction of some reports, because traditionally we've been using reports as an interface to see whether a trend is going up and down, and then we take actions. Like now you could kind of automate that process and really like streamline your operations. And the other area is obviously AI. So like AI is kind of baked into this platform at every step. So you will see Copilot capabilities already on GA for Power BI. So likewise, it is available across the whole platform. So from where I see how it's being used, like the Copilots can be a great learning tool as well. So if you're coming from an app background, you want to write some stored procedures, you don't have some SQL knowledge, you could use the Copilots in the data warehouse experience to kind of skill yourself on that capability. Now, for business users, it changes the game in terms of all these copilots and the data agents that we are releasing. The data agents are in preview at the moment, but like where that will help with the business is democratizing data. Like it puts the data in the hands of your business analysts, your product owners, or the C-suite. To use natural language to query data, so you don't need to know SQL or DAX or all the querying languages to kind of work with the data. And also we'll see like the integration of all these tools into the rest of the Microsoft ecosystem. For example, like you can see there's a lot of integration happening with M365, because while the platform supports both data engineers and your data scientists and your power users as well, not everyone goes into the portal every day to get their reports or to see their dashboards. So now integration into Teams, all the M365 channels, and like you will see something similar to your M365 copilots as well. So you already start seeing like all those data agents being published in the same M365 distribution mechanism as well. So it kind of like you don't need to be on the portal to enjoy the benefits of the platform.
Benny, careful, you're trying to put me out of a job.
Yeah, thanks, Benny. Let's shift gears more to you around the business impact and benefit. Stephen, because I know it's been a two-part journey in that we went and modernized originally, and then obviously transitioned to Fabric. Let's maybe start in the beginning. What were some of your teams that benefit most from the modernization from the original platform? And then let's talk, I guess, and I know Fabric's fairly new. Tristan, I know you mentioned a few of the kind of technical benefits, but maybe between you and Stephen mentioned, I guess, some of the perceived benefits going forward.
Yeah. Although this will be kind of reiterating what Tristan and Benny's already brought forward, it's really bringing in that, like, the benefits are coming to us because they're used across the entire organization in terms of getting the latest and most up-to-date information, and from one source of truth. I think at this stage, however, I would just call out that we're still, Tristan and I, as kind of the data and AI team, still work as data gatekeepers, right? You're still viewing the information out of the lens that we have in terms of the dashboards that we present, the information that's made available to our firm. But I guess in thinking through what the benefits may come out of this and alluding to that task of data agents is we don't want to be the data gatekeepers. We want to be the data stewards and making sure that good, clean, precise, and accurate information is coming out. But we want our users to be able to ask and query and get that and basically self-service the information that they need. That's kind of the next immediate step that we kind of see going forward. And it takes away a lot of the time, maybe some of even the noise and distraction that comes to us with creating certain bespoke either reports or visualizations or some sort of bespoke polls of that very same information set. So you can give the users directly what they're looking for. And then kind of the next stage which is a little bit longer term is agency around the information. So I guess our view of things is that we're hoping that this will lead to more proactive insights, and not only through an alert and when you're getting up to a certain value or you're getting up to a certain threshold, but you can use that information and use the velocity of that information coming through and start to change, alert, or actually even start to curb and immediately put into an action for something that's going to happen. So, for example, we manage a lot of projects. As the project's kind of escalating into its kind of agreed threshold, how can we better support the users by letting them know at this velocity, at this rate, we need to do something different, and we need to curtail that from running drastically over. I know we say real-time like information like it's very, very important, but it really does become a matter of getting the velocity of information, putting in actions before something breaks or issues occur from that. And that's where we see the potential benefit of that is going to be, because one, it provides a better client experience is first and foremost. Two, it creates better awareness internally and in terms of internal information and the data, the power of the data and what it can do. And three, it makes it more accessible to all those parties that are interested.
Yeah, and it's a good point. I mean, I think I mentioned earlier, trust from an adoption was a big key, sort of getting that right. But then also, as you've mentioned, you've got to have the capability and to be able to allow your users to self-serve and not, I guess, stifle them around creating these insights and viewing these insights, but also have the proper governance in place, because you can't just deploy any other report that's being developed. And it's great to hear that was the kind of, the journey and the balance that you were going to get right to get to those benefits that your stakeholders and your teams are experiencing now, which is good to hear. Benny, from your side, any broader benefits you're seeing in other organizations adopting Fabric, especially around governance or cost or user adoption?
Yeah, look, Fabric has been in GA for the last 2 years, and it's one of it's the fastest growing service within the Microsoft stack. So already we have seen about more than 28,000 deployments, production deployments worldwide, and more than 80% of the Fortune 500 companies use Fabric with at least 2 workloads, right? But where we are seeing more adoption is in the small and medium businesses, because that's where the barriers to entry has been removed with the simplification of the tool set and the cost perspective as well. Now, Fabric is a great data platform, not just for greenfield or a new implementation, but it can meet you where you are at. So if you have existing platforms that you're running on Azure, so if you want to use the Fabric toolset, you can still use that with minimal re-engineering, I would say. So Fabric supports concepts like shortcuts for file-based data sources and mirroring concept for proprietary databases that help you to bring data into the one lake and use the benefits of Fabric. So we will see like a lot of integrations happening with the rest of the ecosystem as well. So, like for instance, like the Dataverse link is being used by a lot of our customers for providing analytics on Dynamics 365 CRMs. Right. And likewise, you will see a lot of connectors, a lot of mirroring sources, and also support for open source formats. Like today, the OneLake supports the Delta Lake format, and soon we are supporting Iceberg format as well. So compatibility. So what this means is it will make the platform compatible with even platforms that are outside of Microsoft, like Snowflake, for instance. And I think the biggest push is towards AI and agents. So you might have heard about the Fabric IQ being released in Ignite. So what this allows you to do is basically model your business processes as like a graphical data model, and then feed it with the data that you have on OneLake to help you understand your business, optimize some of your operations, or flag events like, as Tristan was saying, find a pattern before it actually uh, occurs. So it's kind of it's you'll see more of those use cases coming up.
Yeah, thanks, Benny. Let's talk AI and because of AI readiness. Stephen, I know it's early days for you guys around the AI journey, but where do you see, I guess, the firm leveraging AI and in terms of the Fabric platform?
Yeah, it's still early days for us because I guess we're looking at how the I guess maybe I'll give it in two approaches. One is looking at kind of a little bit of the off-the-shelf programs that we're using to support our organization that then can tap into our full data sets, and that needs to have structure, it needs to have categorization and I guess context of where everything is in order to support that. Other side is looking at a little bit more free form, where we're looking at still need that same source of information, but looking at potential of what we can actually do ourselves. So if we're looking at the benefits of both of them, you still need a, I guess, unified data platform that can give you across our enterprise systems and anything that's kind of pulling in relevant information into the same place to really put that forward and put that together. So as we kind of like develop that and build out that foundation deeper, I think that's where we'll get access a few more of those benefits. I know we're just starting to explore a few like distinct use cases in terms of what we do with our data and what our information. I guess those are still, we're I guess piloting it hopefully in a smart and safe way before I tell you I'm doing like all sorts of things, all sorts of crazy things with it. So limited experimentation is kind of our approach right now, but Fabric will give us the ability to do that.
Yeah, great. And I think when we were talking, Stephen, just around you're obviously looking at that. What are the requirements in AI from the top down? What are the use cases that are going to bring the best value? And obviously, you've solved that one piece of that foundation is having the data in a unified process and having that quality and so forth, which is good. Tristan, just a question. I know obviously Fabric itself, there's a lot of AI and so forth from a technical perspective. Are you guys starting to explore some of that? I know there's Copilot in there and so forth, even especially from the Power BI. Is this still early days or?
We're definitely interested in starting to use it. However, within Microsoft Fabric itself, we don't currently have it turned on. So at our firm, we have a very strict policy around data residency being within Australia. At the moment, that's not the case for Copilot in Microsoft Fabric. So we're across what it can do for us. So we're very excited. As soon as that lands in Australia, we'll be jumping on board with it straight away. But essentially what it's going to mean, one, it's going to be a massive undertaking of work to get to the point where end users can, for example, jump into Copilot and query data sets. It requires a significant transformation on your semantic data. Your tables need to be labeled clearly. They need to, they need to be constructed in a way that Copilot can actually understand the difference between what the user's asking and what your underlying data set is trying to push forward to them. The second one, which I'm really excited about as well, is just in terms of actually managing and creating data sets. The capabilities coming out of Copilot is almost like cloning my team. It's enabling them to do a lot of that heavy grunt work a lot quicker, increasing the productivity. And then they add the final little steps on top, which really just speed up the efficiency within the team. So we're really excited to get our hands on some of these features once we are able to.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the potential out of it is going to be incredible, and so, but yeah, good to hear. Kind of you're kind of thinking and sort of exploring it as best you can with the realm of the data sovereignty. Benny, over to you. Can you share some of the examples of other industries using AI with Fabric to drive innovation?
Sure. Actually, Tristan's touched upon a very important point. So today, if you're using the AI capabilities, whether it's Copilot or agents, like the prompts are processed for our agents processed in US, and this could change down the track. And the reason for that is because it's a SaaS platform, you don't bring your own, say, an OpenAI instance or things into the integration side of things. But look, from the use case perspective, I touched upon real-time intelligence, but an extension to that is something like an anomaly detection that we are seeing a lot, because this is a feature that is still in preview, but as a standalone feature, it's in preview. But if you're using real-time intelligence, this is available as a KQL, right? So where we are seeing more of this being used is in use cases anomaly is any deviation from normal. So use cases in FSI industries for fraud detection, for instance, when you're making a loan application or making an insurance claim. So these are common scenarios, and these are something that you don't need a data scientist to implement this one. This is something that's available out of the box. And likewise, the other common use case that we're seeing is observability of the platform. Now, because the fabric is now across your organization, one leg goes across your whole tenant, you need to be aware of what is happening on the platform. So who is accessing one leg, how the data is being shared, whether there is excessive deletions happening from a certain account, or things like that. And it could be for operational reasons as well. So you could monitor today your pipelines, your Spark notebooks in real time, and alert your operation team, say if the job fails, or you could really use it in a very smart way. You could even use the telemetry coming out of it to kind of scale your capacity up and down, because you could do a forecast, or even on a job runtime, to see how much it might require the next time it runs, and you can do some scaling. So there are a lot of intelligent use cases coming out of it. And what we're also seeing is organizations that have deployed Fabric. Usually the next workload is more around data governance, and that means using the native capability of Fabric today, like lineage, the sensitivity labeling, and data certification. The certification of data sets is out of the box. But if you extend that with a tool like Purview, so you will have capabilities with data loss prevention, so things like So if you have like a confidential data set, you could mark that as a sensitive with a sensitivity label as confidential. So what that means is any report built out of that also inherits that label. And say if you export a report into a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet, that takes that sensitivity labeling as well. And what that prevents you from doing is, like, if you try to copy that outside your organization to your personal OneDrive or something, your DLP policies that are defined across your M365 tenant can kick in. So like that, we see data governance going hand in hand with the data platform. And that's also great from an AI perspective, because you want your AI to be grounded on certified data sets. The data set that you know doesn't have PII information, and so on.
Can I extend on that, Benny? Because I've seen one of the questions in the chat, and it kind of touches on the same view. So I might answer that question earlier. So safeguards and compliance measures we're considering as we expand our AI capabilities, and it's kind of extension of what Benny's kind of said already. Is yeah, I guess I'll answer it in three ways. One is in terms of the technological aspect. Yes, we have purview kind of doing regular auditing and logging that information with the right alerts set up so that we are, I guess, aware when an incident's about to happen or going to happen. We also have the right role-based controls and the measures access restricted to those who need the information, and make sure that it is kind of based on what you need as one of the technical aspect. In terms of policy and governance, we have extensive policies on how we treat data with AI, how we go about using the information, what can be done, what can't be done, the level of consent we need, as well as potentially going back to our clients and making sure that it is appropriate for use and that we're not using it outside of what its intended purpose is. So those principles line back up to not only our data privacy principles, but back to Australian privacy principles available to everyone. And then I guess the third emphasis I would lay is everything has a human in the loop measure. At this point in time, there's nothing that is truly autonomous for us right now. It still requires our professional, our professional review to make sure that the outputs of this, no matter if it's just relates to the data, financials, or if it's text output, is still reviewed by one of our professional staff before it goes out anywhere, internally or externally. So I hope that answers that question that was put in the chat.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. And look, we'll probably wrap it up there and move over to questions. But just before we do that, I just wanted to thank our panel members for sharing their journey and insights. So we may, being we've got about 8 minutes left, if there's any other questions?
It was just that question that Stephen's already addressed. Thanks, Shane. That's come through.
Okay. Well, I might ask one, I guess, to Tristan and Stephen. What's some of the, I guess, advice you would give to organizations that they're starting out their data modernization journey?
Yeah, I can take this one, Shane. There's probably a few key ones that I would suggest. The first one is to start with your strategy and not your current technology stack. So this way you're starting to future-proof what it is that you're wanting to achieve and not building on a foundation that might not be aligned with your strategy. The second one, in specific to Microsoft Fabric, is learn the platform and understand what it can offer. Because there are so many different features and functionalities in there that you can take advantage of that aren't offered in a lot of other warehousing type solutions. Obviously with that comes assessing your current state as well. So really get an understanding of where you currently are, so that way when you go to look towards moving your data infrastructure to Microsoft Fabric, you can do it in a way that is designed around a phased approach. like what we did at the start and we developed with NTT. We went for a lift and shift model to start with. Let's not introduce anything that's wildly out of the box. Let's just migrate it across, get it working, trust it, and then scale and iterate from there. So they're probably the biggest ones I can think of. Stephen, I don't know if you want to add any more.
I'll add one point is have patience. So
yes,
we may say all kind of rainbows and sunshine that we're looking at as benefits out of this. It's taken like my team, Tristan and everyone that's working with us, quite a bit of time to not only, like in his way, he said, learn the platform, but in a way that it's kind of changes happen upon us and need to adapt to. So it will be a change. It's not an easy change necessarily. We think it's worthwhile for us, and I would say make the same evaluation for you. Is it going to provide you the business benefit you need? Is it going to solve something that's critical to your business? How do you share that with the business leaders in order for them to understand the capabilities that come out of it and the benefits that come out of it, and prepare to learn lots?
Yeah, patience is a really good one there, Stephen, because I clearly remember there was this point. It was months and months ago. We're using a preview feature. There's not much information on it. We got stuck on this one problem. It was a firewall problem. We really couldn't figure it out. Because it's a preview feature, there wasn't any information on Microsoft Fabric about it. We were going back and forth with Microsoft to try and figure out what was happening. It took 8 weeks to solve something that could be fixed in 2 seconds. It was a classic needle in the haystack scenario. But again, it really iterated on Stephen's point around patience, because during that time, patience was key, because we're dealing with such a new tool. You need to expect that things just aren't going to go to plan. So if you've got a deadline that you're working to, make sure that you're baking in a bit of fat.
Yeah, and I think just also echo your comment around aligning it to your data strategy and requirements, because I think these days technology is the easy part. You can spin these things up pretty quickly now, but you've got to make sure it's the right platform for your right organization, for your right culture, and so forth. So it is very much, we do recommend with any of the technologies that you're aligned to your requirements and your overall vision and so forth. So I agree. And then obviously definitely patience with any tech implementation. You've got to be patient. I don't think there's any other questions, so we'll probably just leave it there. Look, thank you for everyone that's joined. I guess if there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, and obviously we've got guys on the call. But obviously, just again, thank you to the panel members, Tristan, Stephen, and Benny, for joining and providing valuable insights around the journey as well as the product. So thank you.
Thanks for having us, Shane.
Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, guys.
All. Bye.
Cheers, bye.